Hey guys, so Brightwing has received a rework, and it's a pretty interesting rework. So I'm going to go through all of the talents and abilities, and then either later today or tomorrow, I'm going to bring out a Brightwing gameplay video. I've already played Brightwing. I've played around with a couple of the builds. I've watched some people play, and we've kind of figured out some of the ones that are interesting. So to start off, some of the changes that were made is your passive now has an active, or your trait anyways now has an active. So you passively heal people every 4 seconds for 219, just how it was before. Slightly less healing from my understanding. But you can activate it to remove all stuns, roots, and slows and silences from all nearby enemy or ally heroes. Now, there's something interesting about this, which is if you activate this, it does this huge little like area, and it actually goes over for about 0.5 seconds from the time that it's middle to the end. Well, during this entire area, anyone who's in this will be getting repeatedly cleansed over and over and over. So while you're not unstoppable, it kind of feels like an unstoppable because if you're getting rooted or slowed, you can essentially remove it over and over and over. In this case, let me see if I can get him to pop his slow, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Do you see how I'm moving as fast as he is, even though it's not a real unstoppable? So this is my normal speed in slow, but here's the regular speed. You can see I'm much faster. And it's purely because it's a whole bunch of mini cleanses over and over and over. We figured that it's about 0.5 to 0.75 seconds. And the interesting thing about it is you can activate this and get stunned and still cleanse yourself. I don't know if that's going to be fixed, but in general, it's a pretty powerful tool. So that's how the trait has been changed. The passive is essentially the same, just heals a tiny bit less, and then that. The Q has been changed. If you hit someone with the middle of your Q, it will instantly proc one thing of your passive without actually triggering the cooldown. For example, you can see I healed again, and it didn't proc the cooldown. So it's a great tool to get extra heals off during a fight. The W is essentially the same as what it was before. It's a silence. It polymorphs for 1.2 or 1.5 seconds, and it also slows their movement speed a little bit, making it nice to follow up. Your pixie dust is still pretty much the same. Gives movement speed, gives spell armor, and that's for 3 seconds. Now, on to the build. Pixie charm. It's pretty much what it was before, except for the fact is now it is grants 1 stack of bribe when a nearby enemy minion dies, and 5 stacks when hitting an enemy hero with arcane flare. So, what I will say now is, if you are going to watch my Brightwing video, you're going to understand that I didn't read this first, so I did not know that they changed this. But now you get more benefits for staying away from your team, and more benefits for landing your arcane flares in team fights. Both are great tools for getting your bribe charges quickly. The next thing is hyper shift. So what this one used to do was lower the cooldown of your phase shift by 3 seconds every time that you would heal an ally. All right. With your passive. So if you were with like 4 allies, you would lower the cooldown very quickly. Now it's based off of minion deaths. Nearby enemy minions dying reduces the cooldown by 2. Also, it increases the amount of healing. So your phase shift now has a 20% maximum health heal when you jump to someone. You can bump that up to 30% and lower the cooldown. Both of these encourage something interesting. They encourage you to go away from your team, gain benefits away from your team, and then jump to your team later. With Pixie Charm being a little bit more of an exception because you can still gain these stacks while both of these you can still gain the stacks with your team. But these are cool because you can actually gain something from being in the global, which or the off lane away from objectives, which you didn't really have too much of before with Brightwing. And you also gain, instead of sending just a shield at level 7, you also are healing them when you enter the fight. So you can stay in the global, and when your team starts fighting, you can immediately jump in, do a big heal to your team. It's really, really nice. The last thing is takedowns refresh polymorph and increase the range of polymorph. Meaning if you polymorph an enemy and your team jumps on them while they're slowed, you can lead to a kill, you get a refresh, and you can immediately polymorph another target. It's neat. I think it's more for the range than for the refresh itself, but because it's not really helping you too much in securing a kill, but it's still kind of interesting. Level 4. we see a really cool set. We see Arcane Flare's center, its range is increased, and its center reduces its own cooldown by 2 seconds, which remember, the Arcane Flare is also your tool to get extra healing out. So this is going to be your best one for increasing your healing, as well as your damage. The problem is that it's still a slow-moving attack. It's still pretty easy to get out of that center area, and people that are a little bit better are going to naturally understand you just need to get out of the center, and it reduces a lot of Brightwing's abilities. This one's interesting. Unstable Anomaly used to just make it to where at the end of it, it would do like 100 damage or something. Now, at the end of it, it does 2% of their max health, and it increases the slow. So while you polymorph someone, they're slowed even more, and when the polymorph ends, they do 2% of the damage. Combining it with this, where you might get resets on kills, it could be a beneficial way to drop people very quickly. And the last talent is Magic Spit. You increase the basic attack range by 1.1, making your attack range pretty long. And you also lower the activatable piece of your trait, which is the cleanse. So it is a 120-second cleanse, AoE cleanse, that you can lower by 5 seconds per auto attack. I personally think this is going to be one of the stronger talents because not only does it increase your range so you can poke more in lane, but you can also get more utility on your trait. So in reset compositions, we may be seeing the unstable, but I think that the Magic Spit is going to bring the most utility. Level 7, we have I want to talk about Peekaboo first because they are combining the vision from Peekaboo with the shield talent that was given on 7. So the level 4 and level 7 teleport talents have been combined into a single talent on level 7. The other option is Arcane Flare now slows. So you can increase this. It slows by 20% if you hit them anywhere, 40% if they're hit in the middle. Again, kind of a cool thing if you're hitting them a lot in the middle with this because then you get a low cooldown on it. But I actually really want to talk about this talent. It makes it to where now your trait does a little bit of a heal too. So when you cleanse someone, which usually when someone gets hit by a CC, they've taken damage. It's a nice extra thing because they get cleansed, a little bit of a heal, and it's easier for them to get out. It's not an amazing heal, and it's not going to be anything used just for the heal, but it is nice because your cleanse will be set up with a heal as well. Level 10, these are essentially still the same. The blink heal, still 2 charges, still decent heals. Your emerald, still a same 50-second cooldown. Pretty good. Level 13 are all pixie dust talents. So you have one that gives more movement speed. We've had this one before. One that increases the healing. We've had this one before. And now we have a new one that increases the spell armor granted and the reduces the cooldown. So instead of it granting 25 spell armor and having a 10-second cooldown, it grants 50 spell armor and has a 7-second cooldown. I've been using Pixie Power, and it seems really, really powerful to be able to reduce damage by 50% on whatever target you're using it on. And it's just a huge amount of healing or damage reduction rather than just getting the extra healing here and there. So overall, I like those, but I think the other ones might be good. 40% movement speed to someone like a Garrosh could lead to extra throws. You see that the ice block is gone on 13, which is a very important talent, as well as the there's a couple. There's another talent on 13, can't remember what it was. Level 16, we see that the Critterize is still there, but the increased duration on Polymorph is no longer there. So Critterize is the one that reduces the armor. Once again, I think this would be good for like a W build. You get the longer range, you get the bigger slow, as well as the explosion, and now you have the lowered armor. So if you do a W on someone, your whole team's going to jump on them, blow them up, you get a reset, Critterize, blow them up. You also get phase out here. There's an interesting thing about phase out though. While it's like an ice block where you stasis yourself for 0.75 seconds, it's kind of interesting because you will pop this and you can't turn it off. You have to go the full 0.75 seconds, and it seems really fast, 0.75 seconds, but it's actually kind of slow. Like, I used it a couple times to dodge one thing, and I felt it to where, like, I would do this with ice blocks sometimes where a root would go out and I would ice block the root really quick and then turn it off. And I figured, oh, I probably stayed ice blocked for 0.75 seconds. No, I probably stayed ice blocked for like a third of a second. This feels a lot longer than it actually is. So that's something to think about. And then you also get the opportunity to silence people with your Q if you want to go the Q talents. I think in general, the Q talents is what a lot of people are going to visually see as something that is strong. I just found like when I was playing the games that I was playing with Brightwing, people were really good at dodging out of the way of your Qs, and despite throwing them out pretty much off cooldown, I felt like I wasn't hitting them very often. So the Q build might be questionable. It could be decent against certain compositions, like maybe against a hammer or something, being able to get a lot of damage off, lowering the cooldown and all that. It could be a decent counter for a Sergeant Hammer. Outside of that, though, I like the other builds. And now on to the level 20s. In my opinion, all of our level 20s are very, very powerful now. Speedy Dragon, flat 20% increased movement speed. That's really powerful for someone like a Brightwing who needs to get in and out of fights really well, or really quick. The next Fairy Protector, you grant Pixie Dust to everyone. If you were to get the increased spell armor, that is 50 spell armor for everyone on your team every 45 seconds, which is huge. Or you could go the increased healing and pop it right before you get a trade-off, and you can get the increased healing on everyone. Or just give yourself a bunch of speed. You can give your entire team 40% movement speed, rush in, and be pretty much a mini Lucio. So, pretty cool, but these ones are the ones that are really interesting to me. Intensive Winds makes it to where your Emerald Wind's cooldown is 5 seconds. And its mana cost is 200. You can honestly use it about 2 times per fight if you're using your other abilities reasonably. 3 times per fight if you're saving all of your mana just for this. And then you can back and then use your Z to get back into the fight after you get mana and use it a couple more times. It's a really cool talent. I think, in my opinion, this is one of the strongest talents. But Invisible Friends is pretty interesting too. So let me start picking some talents really quick to show you guys what I'm talking about. So let's go into the Polymorph talents. This one doesn't really matter. Let's go Critical Mass, or Mist, I mean, and then we'll go Blink Heal, and doesn't really matter. Let's just go the bonus healing and armor, and then Invisible Friends. So, the interesting thing about this is that you can jump to someone, and you can pretty much put them invisible, and this invisibility lasts forever, while also giving yourself invisibility. So say, for instance, you wanted to just kind of hide and give some vision to your team, so you wanted to just play here. It does include the thing where if you're standing still for 1.5 seconds, you go full invisibility, so they'll never know that you're here. You can grant vision to your team while you're using your phase shift, or while you're looking around for phase shift. Or you can use it to quickly stealth one of your allies while they're getting attacked, and now auto attackers can no longer attack them because they're in stealth. So it does do a small amount of healing per second, but the amount of healing per second is pretty much minimal. It's not really that useful, except for the fact that this is a permanent thing. So you could give it to one thing here, and then you can also give it to an ally over here, and you can go back and give it to another ally over here, and you can just keep giving it to all of your allies, giving everyone stealth. And because it has such a low cooldown with your blink heal, you can effectively give your whole team stealth within like 18 seconds or something. So it's a pretty powerful tool in general for just giving your entire team stealth, or just saving one person in the middle of a fight. They get out while stealth. I mean, we've seen how many times a Greymane has gotten out because of just his stealth talent. So that's essentially what it is. You're giving that stealth talent to anyone on your team at any point. So I think all of the level 20s from Brightwing are very powerful. Let me reset the talents so you can kind of see some of the other ones. But let's just go. Let's go into the Q build, and Emerald, and it doesn't matter, and then Q, and then the increased Emerald. So I'm going to turn off toggle cooldown so you can see kind of the cooldown reduction of tossing out your Q. You get the cooldown reduction, tossing out your Q, and you're also reducing. With this Q, you are reducing their damage, you're silencing them. At the same time, you're also slowing them. So the Q build, in theory, would be pretty cool if you were good at it, as well as you're also getting multiple heal procs off whenever you get those. But I wanted to show you guys the increased Emerald. So using Emerald once, you have 5 seconds. And it takes about 2 to 3 seconds for them to get pushed anyways. So by the time the fight starts back up again, you can just use it right again and reset this fight, pick the target that you want to, and start blowing them apart. And then if the fight keeps going, you could just go right back in, pop another Emerald, and push things around. So in general, it's a pretty cool talent. And then usually what I was doing is right as I used my second or third Emerald and I was running out of mana, I just backed. And then as I was watching the fight going on, I was like, all right, there's another target I could jump to. And I jumped to it. And then I immediately did another Emerald to reset the fight again. And it's just a really cool talent. So I end up picking this one in the game that I'll be sharing in a little bit. But in general, I think that there's going to be a couple builds. I don't know which ones are going to be the main ones in the meta. I think that Hypershift is going to be very good. Combining that with Peekaboo would also be very powerful. I think the other possible option is going Charm in Hero League with like the Magic Spit, because also that auto attack range in Hero League is really nice. We could do we could reset the talents, and I can show you the let's go Pixie, Magic Spit, Critical Mist. This could definitely be a build for Hero League. You've got a long range poke that you can step in, poke, step in, poke, step in, poke, as well as you also still gain the benefits of the bribe in case your team's not getting camps. So I think in a competitive environment, we're either going to be seeing a W build in a reset composition or a phase shift build. And then I think in Hero League, the Pixie Charm into Magic Spit is going to be a pretty decent build for Hero League. Level 13 talents are situational. Level 16 talents enhance your build. Level 20 is a huge power spike for Brightwing in general. So that's Brightwing. I do have a game that I've played. I will probably try to release it the same day. If I'm publishing this video the day of the PTR, then I'll probably have out the other one later today. But either way, thank you all for watching, and feel free to check out some of my other videos.